It's Kyle and Dan, and filling in for Keegan today is Mark Feinsand, a MLB national writer. He knows the Jays, he knows the Yankees, and a perfect person to be sitting here with us after a Jays-Yankees series. Mark, I always like to start with the positives. The Blue Jays won. So they didn't get swept, but their consecutive run of winning series came to an end in New York.
Yeah, you go on the road for a couple of division series, then, if you can get out of there with a 500 record, that's usually probably what you're looking for, because those are, a couple tough places to play against some couple tough teams. And, the Yankees at home are certainly, a dangerous team, even in their current situation without Aaron Judge. They did get Bellinger back this weekend. But I think, you look at where the Jays are, you can't be upset. Now they have to go home and they have to take care of business at home because, certainly these last 4+ weeks of the season are going to be a real rat race between those, 5 or 6 teams that are all vying for that last wild card spot.
As you said, Mark, taking 3 of 6, going 50-50 against these two teams is by no means an easy feat. So the Jays can take some solace in that. But what did we really learn this weekend? The Yankees seem to be turning a bit of a corner with a looming return of Aaron Judge, which would obviously help them massively. The Jays have turned that corner and are playing better. Are these two teams both poised to make a run in the playoffs or even get to the playoffs for that matter?
Well, I think the one thing you look at with both of these teams is that, assuming they get there, and the Yankees, you would have to assume are going to get there, given, I think they have like a 9-game lead on the wild card, on the teams that are outside of the wild card. I mean, the Yankees and Red Sox seem poised to get 2 of those spots. The Yankees are also only 3 games out of the division, so they still have bigger goals in sight. But I think with both of these teams, you look at them, they have the starting pitching to to make a run. If they get to October, you look at the Yankees, and if you've got Cole and Schlittler, and Fried looks like he's on his way back, and then your number 4, you're probably looking at Rodon or Ryan Weathers if he gets healthy again. That's the kind of rotation that can really do some damage in October. And ditto with the Jays. You've got the big number 1 starter in Cease. Soriano, if he can find that early season form, which we haven't seen yet with the Jays, but it's in there. And I know Max Scherzer's like 75 years old, but he's a guy who, if you need 5 good innings in a big game, you feel like he's got the opportunity to do that. And then between Bieber and Arrighetti, and who knows what's going to happen with the Savage, I would assume he would be sort of a, long guy, or 2-3 inning pops at a time, if he's able to come back. But they have the pitching to get it done, is the point. For each of these teams, I think it comes down to, does Aaron Judge come back for the Yankees, and is he going to be healthy and be able to beat Aaron Judge? And I'm sure the topic you guys have been talking about for 5 months now is, Vladdy going to be Vladdy? If you put those guys at their peak in the middle of a lineup, it makes a lineup a lot more difficult to navigate. The Yankees have been without Judge for 3+ months, and the Blue Jays have essentially been without Vladdy for the entire season. So, if they can get those guys clicking by October, that's going to be a big difference maker.
And here's how it was for most of the season for Jays fans watching Vladdy. Each at bat, in a key situation, you'd say, okay, here's where he turns it all around. I think Jays fans have even got beyond that and have given up that hope, and now cling to the realization that the Toronto Blue Jays are a better baseball team without Vladdy in their lineup right now.
I mean, the Vladdy that we've seen this year, you could certainly make an argument. I mean, a guy who's got a sub 700 OPS and fewer home runs than both of your catchers, that's certainly not a guy you're saying you want to build your lineup around. That said, we know what Vladdy's capable of doing. Oddly enough, I feel like if he hits a home run in Toronto, just gets that monkey off his back and hits that first one at home, that could be the thing that propels him.
Yeah, it could.
Right? I mean, we've seen this with hitters over the years. I know that, every hitter goes through slumps, right? We've seen Hall of Fame hitters go through, 0 for 32. I watched Derek Jeter do it in New York when I was covering the Yankees. He was getting booed at Yankee Stadium, which seemed like a completely foreign concept. But sometimes it's that one swing, you just sort of clicks, it feels good, and oh, there it is. I'm sure there have been some start and stops this year where Vladdy felt like, okay, I'm finding it, but it just hasn't been able to manifest itself into any sort of a lengthy hot streak. He's hitting the ball hard, but he's just not doing the damage he usually does. So, with a guy with his track record, it's impossible to write him off, right? I mean, he's 27 years old. This is not, a 36-year-old that you're just hoping can hang on and find that one last streak that's going to be the memorable moment for his career. He's 27, so we know what he's capable of doing, and you just keep wondering, like, is there going to be that one swing, that one at bat, that one game that just gets him going? And if it does, and if he finds that, well, then all of a sudden the lineup looks completely different. If you've got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting in the middle of it, but they just haven't had that guy this year.
And Mark, I agree that one Toronto home run could really change the course of his season. But the problem is, we're making this statement on August the 24th. It's a remarkable thing. Like, you would have never expected him to go to basically September without a home field home run. But we saw the way they played without him, and this team is really running out of time if they are to make it into the playoffs. There's not really a lot more questions about this. It's at some point, are they going to have to seriously consider sitting him for a few games? Maybe they know something is wrong with him, or maybe they just come to the conclusion that we can't leave this many runners on base, and we can't have the rest of the lineup waiting for Vladdy to do something.
Yeah, I will say this: you can't peg this weekend on Vladdy
No.
because, they were 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position on Friday. In the loss, they were 1 for 9 yesterday, and even in their win, they were 4 for 18. So, when you're looking at 6 for 41 over a 3-game series, Vladdy didn't take those 41 at bats. So this is a lineup wide problem right now, up and down, where if you want to get to the playoffs, you want to give yourself a chance to defend that American League title. You're going to have to get some more contributions up and down the lineup in big spots. And, you saw this weekend, and I understand the Yankees are a good pitching team. They can get guys out, but, they still put themselves in position to have 41 at bats of runners scoring position. So it wasn't like they were just getting dominated all over the place. Yeah, they need the time is running out, but at the same time, they have the benefit of the fact that the American League largely stinks this year. So, you're 4 games under 500, and you're facing a game and a half deficit, with 30 games to play. 30 games to play is a lot in terms of making up a game and a half. And unlike when we were talking about this 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, where it was like, all right, they're only 5 games out, but there were like 6 teams in between them and that spot. So they had to keep jumping over teams. Well, they did that. So right now you're looking at it, the Guardians and the Rangers are ahead of them, but that's it. And you've got the Twins and the Orioles and the Mariners and the Tigers sort of breathing up, down your neck with their 2 games, 3 games, 3.5 games. But it's just such a jumbled situation right now that you look at the games that you have against some of those teams; those are going to be huge, huge series. Also, take a look at the Blue Jays schedule. There are some pretty soft spots in there. They've 6 left against the Royals. They still have to go to Seattle. They play Seattle this week. Seattle has not been a very good team. You've got 3 in Sacramento against the A's, who are the worst team in the league. So you've got, and then you close against the Reds, who have been pretty bad. But in between those, you've got games against 6 against Baltimore. You've got 3 in Texas. You've got 3 in Cleveland. So you have an opportunity to take care of your own business. So at the end of the day, when you look at these last 30 games, where they stand and who's ahead of them and who they have to chase down, they have the opportunity to do it. Go out and beat Cleveland, go out and beat Baltimore, go out and beat Texas, and all of a sudden you're going to find yourself where you want to be.
A lot has been made about the Jays' remaining schedule and how, I wouldn't say easy, but how it's against sub 500 teams, the majority of it. And it almost feels like a trap where you think nothing but good things are going to happen. But what I've seen in past situations like this is teams play to the level of the competition. And if you're playing teams that aren't good, that's not good.
Yeah, except again, I think in this situation, when you look at a bunch of those teams that are under 500, these are the teams they have to chase. Cleveland's under 500, Baltimore's under 500, Detroit's under 500, Texas. These are the teams that they're competing with. So this isn't a case of the Blue Jays and the Yankees are trying to, outdo them, beat each other for the AL East, and now all of a sudden the Jays have a road trip against three crappy teams, and they need to try to keep themselves up for it. They're playing the teams they need to beat. So if you can't get up for 3 in Cleveland, if you can't get up for 3 in Texas, when those are the teams that you have to chase down, well, then you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. So, also let's call a spade here. The Blue Jays are under 500. So it's not like they're a, sitting there with 75 or 80 wins going to face teams with 62 wins. They're a 64 win team right now. So, I don't think, if you could look at the Rangers and Guardians and say they're looking at the Blue Jays in the same light. And that's been the story of the American League this year. Is you've got the 4 teams at the top with the Yankees, the Rays, the Red Sox, and the White Sox, because we all figured that was going to happen this year. And everybody else is just in that sort of that muck in the middle, trying to survive and get to October. And once you get to October, everybody's 0-0. And, we know the Blue Jays have the talent to compete with anybody. The question is, will they be able to perform to the level of their talent?
Muck is a very kind word to use to describe that, Mark, to be honest with you.
Well, we're trying to keep this family friendly. So, I didn't want
it's
to.
It's a steaming pile of what. But that's neither here nor there, because the race is now on. But because of that muck pile, and because of the fact that we're likely to see a team with the worst record ever to make the playoffs come out of the American League this season, how do we parse out, like, who else? The Blue Jays have been considerably hot lately. Is anyone else in that muck pile also sort of trending positively? Because it's really hard to look at the records and go, oh yeah, this team's rolling, because really none of them are, except perhaps the Blue Jays. Is there anyone else that they should be particularly focused on as a breakout team down these last 5 weeks or so?
No.
I like that answer.
Great answer.
Honestly, so if you look at like the last 10 games, right? Take the last week and a half, and is anybody surging here? The Rangers are 5-5. The Blue Jays are 5-5. The Twins are 4-6. The Orioles are 5-5.
Royals
the Guardians
are 9-1.
6-4. So, the Royals are 9-1, and all of a sudden they're back to 7.5 out. I'm not ready to anoint the Royals as being in this race just yet, given that they have to jump 7 teams to get there, and a lot of these teams play each other. So, when the Blue Jays are playing the Guardians, they can't both lose that night, no matter how much they might try. So, no, I mean, at the end of the day, even, the Rays are even sort of skidding a little bit. And the Yankees have all of a sudden cut down that 7-game deficit to 3. They still play each other 4 times. So that could end up being a pretty exciting series. But yeah, I mean, everybody is just like between 4-6 and 6-4 in their last 10. Nobody is sort of grabbing that baton and running with it. They're all just sort of mired in that muck. I like that word, muck.
Before we let you go, can you make sense of what went on in Houston today as the Astros on? Well, you guys already said the date. I never know what date it is. On August 24th, the Astros fired their GM. Make sense of that.
No, I really can't. I think, Dana Brown has been there for a few years. His contract was up at the end of this year, so I would not have been remotely surprised if they had made a change at the end of the year. But doing it on August 24th, unless this is simply one of those, we're trying to send a message to the team that changes are coming if we don't win this division. And, the Astros are in that muck with everybody else. They're a game under 500. They're tied with Texas atop the American League West. And the idea of a sub 500 team winning a division, forget the third wild card, is just crazy. But yeah, this could just be a simple fact of Jim Crane saying, I don't like what I've seen the last, 5, 7, 10, 14 days. And I'm just trying to send a message to my team that, if we don't win this division and if we don't get to the postseason, big changes are coming. I think change was probably coming in that front office at the end of the year anyway. But to do it with 30 games left in the season is certainly not something you see very often.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for jumping in with us.
Anytime, guys. Take care.